Right, hello there everybody. Adam Clery here for you today. That's nice for you, isn't it? And England have just beaten Ireland 5-0. England, this England, Lee Carsley's England, 5-0. And while I am seeing people use words like routine and expected and collapse and lol and so on and so forth, I thought this was a very interesting performance and result for England, because for a large part of that game, Ireland were doing a very good job on them. But then all of a sudden they weren't, and things unfolded from there. And I actually think the pattern of this game actually tells a really interesting story about how games like this can tend to go, and more specifically has some long-lasting implications for certain members of this England squad. So we've got nothing else to talk about. Now, just before we start, this is my ancestral motherland. My entire family is from County Clare, and this is what my passport looks like. So it wasn't a particularly easy watch for me, to be honest. But also, in fairness, for about 50 odd minutes of that, it wasn't a particularly easy watch for anybody, because as we said, Ireland turned up with a very specific game plan that looked like this, and they deliberately tried to make it about as difficult a watch as possible. Like, if I ever somehow end up doing very basic football tactics for beginners at a university one day, this might well be the diagram I use to show you what a low block looks like. There is a very disciplined back four here, with Nathan Collins, a defensive midfielder, dropping into it to make a back five when they needed to, but also stopping any England players getting in the lines between the defence and the midfield by chasing him around. And then in front of him, and I use the words in front very loosely in this example, there's a midfield four of two midfielders just sitting with him and two wingers, 𝗕𝗏𝗡 and 𝗕𝗏𝗡𝗍𝗍, just protecting their fullbacks. And then all the way up here on his own, big, strong, young Evan Ferguson, whose entire job was when Ireland did eventually get the ball back, they would go direct into him straight away. He would hold it up and try and pull the team up the pitch as quickly as they could to get some kind of counter-attack going. And as with every single team who plays a low block like this in a game like this, Ireland's objective was very simple. They sit deep to stop you having any space in behind. They sit compact to stop you playing through the middle of them. They force the ball out to the flanks where the space is. Then they try and win it back there, go straight up the other end as quickly as possible and get a goal that way. It's the old smash and grab. And for like 55 minutes of this game, that was actually working really, really well. England did not have a single shot on target in that first half. And Ireland actually nipped up the other end here, caused a bit of chaos by playing the ball into Ferguson. He was supported by runners, which is what you want. And on another day, I do think there are some referees that would not care that Walker touched the ball before he clattered into the Irish player. They might give a penalty for that. Now, this was the problem that England had to solve. So what was the solution? Well, it's a completely different conundrum to the one they had in Greece, because they knew the Greeks were going to be aggressive. They knew the Greeks were going to get into them, to press them in their own half. But this Irish team, as you can see from the graph again, is about as interested in the concept of the press as anybody under the age of 40. That's a joke about the decline of the newspaper industry. Laugh. Anyway, yes, the point I'm trying to make is this is a very different type of game to the Greek one, so it's not just a case of, oh, we'll get all the same players out, we'll do all the same things, and we'll probably win that as well, because we're really good against Greece. Take your mind back to that beautiful Curtis Jones goal, the little flick, that was beautiful, wasn't it? Rewind it. England only created that because Jude Bellingham had just this wonderful arrogance to go and take the ball in his own box and go, come on, I know you're going to press me. I know you're going to all want to come on to me. Come on, bring as many as you like. Then he just flicked the ball past a lot of them, and England had all the space in the world to get up the other end. That was never, ever, look at it again, going to happen in this game. So then, and I am actually going to pretend I'm doing university for a sec. Let's pretend. We're in the lecture hall. This is where your £9 a term is going, right? What are the 3 ways you can beat a low block? Anybody? Anybody? Well, first off, class, quality. If you've got players capable of doing really, really special things, that can be a way you can break down a big organized structure like this. They might just dribble through 4 players, or they might play an unbelievable pass, or they might just ping it in from 45 yards. Something really special like that. But obviously, you can't really plan for that. That's not really an effective strategy, is it? It just might happen. The second thing, and this is what most teams have to do, is set pieces, because they're a great leveler, aren't they? It doesn't matter how many players the opposition get back behind the ball. It doesn't matter how much they contest the space. You get a dead ball situation, you're kind of in control of what you want to do with that. You can put players wherever you want to play them. You can play the ball wherever you want to play it. If you've got a clever routine or just some really big players, you're going to get more joy than you are trying to pass through a wall of 10 men. This Ireland team knows exactly where it wants to be, knows exactly what it wants to do. It's going to sit there unless you force it, for some reason, to disrupt its shape. You drag a player out of the way and then you exploit that space you've made. And that, my friends, is why Lee Carsley selected Harry Kane. Now this, right, this is Harry Kane's heat map across the entire 90 minutes. And you'll notice straight away, oh my, grandma, what big box threat you've got there. He's getting in there, he's getting on the end of stuff, he's getting passes, he's getting touches, he's really contributing right near the goal. And if you can bring yourself to cast your mind back to the European Championships, major criticism of him, that wasn't it, that this just never seemed to happen in almost every single game. But the reason that I mentioned this was his contribution over 90 minutes, I'm going to change that background back, I forgot about that for a second, was because obviously the game changed quite dramatically after the red card. If we also overlay all of his touches in the match prior to the penalty, you will see that none of this exists. This was all of it after Ireland went down to 10 men. And that's because, very simply, in this game, Harry Kane's job was to not be a box threat while Ireland had the low block. He was doing what he does at Bayern Munich, which was coming into the midfield, getting short, getting in around stuff, trying to drag a defender, any defender, out of their position to allow someone else to get into that space and then someone else finds them. Now this is absolutely the right thing to do. It's absolutely the right way to go about that. But the problem was in the first half, it just wasn't really working. Like, here is a still of him attempting to do that. You can see he has not really dragged anybody out of position. Curtis Jones is motioning to try and get into this gap here. Bellingham's just off camera. He's gone and occupied the centre forward position, but Ireland are being really disciplined. Like, here's another example. This time Kane's actually getting on the ball himself. He's getting involved in the link-up play, and again, the Ireland shape is absolutely solid. They're not taking the bait and getting dragged out of position to go and find him. I'm not really going to go into it in this video, but you can also see in this still here another approach England had to try and sort of break Ireland open, right? You've got the two wingers, Gordon's off screen, that's 𝗦𝗶𝗴h on that side, both really, really wide, right? Stretching the pitch as much as possible. And these are the two fullbacks. They're not looking to make overlapping runs all the time. They were certainly doing it in the game, but they weren't doing it all the time. They were also, when the wingers were stretching Ireland, trying to make underlapping runs and sort of get into the number 8 positions. That didn't work either, but England were trying loads of different things to pull, to stretch, to drag, to open up Ireland. And in those first 55 minutes, none of it was working. And to condense? What's the word I want? To make matters worse, the rare occasions they were able to open Ireland up, they just weren't all quite on the same wavelength to then capitalise on it. Like here, everybody sits off a bit. They manage to drag Ireland up the pitch. The ball goes over the top, but it's just not quite timed right. 𝗦𝗶𝗴h can't get on the end of it. Here, Gordon manages to drag some of the defenders out to the left. This creates a little bit of space for Bellingham, but he just can't find him with the pass, and that opportunity vanishes. There was this one in the first half as well, which when I saw it, I started to think, oh, this might not be their night, you know. This might be a really, really sort of uncomfortable game. Anthony Gordon does an absolutely perfect bait the defence into stopping short to allow the overlapping fullback, Lewis Hall in this case, to get behind. And all he's got to do is play him in here, and he's in around the back, but just either Hall's gone too early or Gordon isn't expecting him to be there. They're just not on the same wavelength. They do not capitalise on the little bits of space they do manage to create. But there is, my friends, we're back at the university, a very good reason why I said lesson number 1 was quality. And that is because the thing that eventually opens Ireland up, that wins the penalty for the first goal, it sends them down to 10 men and changes absolutely everything about this match, is a pass of such unbelievable quality, it's almost impossible to defend against. Harry Kane has once again evacuated the centre-forward position, either to create space or to get onto the ball. He has gone out onto the right-hand side. Look, if we go back to his touch map, this was his last contribution before the penalty. He gets on the ball, and if we just switch the camera around, because I've got access to the whole replay, you can see Ireland are probably happy-ish with this. They're still in a good line. There's no real chaos here. They've gone from their back five into a back four. You can see Collins here has just started stepping out because up until a couple of seconds ago, they did have the ball. They were trying to get out of the pitch. And Harry Kane just somehow sees this run from Jude Bellingham. And this is a combination of unbelievable quality from the pair of them combined with wavelength. And I mean, like, if you just look at this as a freeze frame, like, this is why Harry Kane does have to remain part of this England squad for as long as he is able to. Like, I understand the criticisms. I've made them about his ability to press and to be on the front foot and to force England up the pitch and to open up other teams. Like, there are loads of games where I'd much rather have a Watkins or a Solanke, but look at this. How many centre forwards do you know who can leave this space open and vulnerable to be exploited and then go and hit this exact pass? Because, and I hope this gets appreciated, like, the quality of this pass is absolutely insane. Like, if you just look at the situation right before he releases the ball, most people, really good players, I think, would play it on the ground through this channel here. Now, the problem with that is that 99% of the time there, Scales is going to be a massive favourite, and if you get it far enough away from him that Bellingham can outrun him to it, then A, it's possible the goalkeeper gets in and gets it, or B, it's actually moving away from goal by the time he gets to that ball. There's no real chance there, it's just they get in behind. And then the other option is you just try and chip it across these two defenders and land it right on his head. But that's a really difficult technique for Bellingham to then execute, having to sort of like time his run perfectly, get the header back across goal. It's a chance, and again, something you could see a lot of players attempting to do in that situation, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. Like, by the time it gets to him, the angle's probably going to be quite tight, very difficult thing to finish. So what he actually manages to do is he still plays the ball into this channel. It's not a chip, it's not going over everybody's heads, it's going to land at Bellingham's feet, but he does it with just enough outside that it doesn't come back too quick that Scales can intercept it, but also enough that by the time it gets to Bellingham, it's effectively curled around to arrive at his foot at like a 90-degree angle. And like, if you've played football, that's the easiest angle to control a ball from. If it comes like from any other direction, it's able to bounce back the way it came. So if it's coming into your instep and you slightly fumble it, it's still in front of you. Like, I'm not being funny here. That is one of the best passes I've ever seen an England player do in an England international. Like, if Beckham or Alexander-Arnold did that, you'd be absolutely blown away. Give Harry Kane his flowers for that ball. And yeah, from there they get the penalty. Ireland go down to 10 men. They take the lead, and that's their entire game plan completely out the window, because now they have to open up a bit more. They have to try and push up the other end of the field, but they're also trying to do it with a man less. So the space that then creates for England, they massively take advantage of. The second goal is a great example of how you take advantage of teams with a man less. You can see 𝗦𝗶𝗴h is on the right. He makes the run inside, drags the fullback with him, opens up this entire channel that 𝗕𝗺𝗏𝗏 gets into. And yeah, it's not a great cross by any stretch of the imagination, but at least he puts it in the box. Kyle Walker. I am actually going to write something, by the way, about why Kyle Walker never crosses the ball for England, because it winds me right up, and I've seen other people start to notice it as well. So I'm going to do something on that at some point on my socials. Go find them. But anyway, because he actually bothers to put the cross in, it creates a little bit of disorder. Ireland haven't made any subs since the goal, so they're still trying to reorganise. Anthony Gordon's there. Quality finish. 2-0. And you don't need me to break down every single goal in this game. The fourth one's a really clever set piece, which we said is something really good for breaking down low blocks. The fifth one's an unbelievable cross from Bellingham because, as we said, quality can be used to break down a low block. But the third one, that's quite interesting. Like, Ireland have just conceded the second goal here. This is literally 10 or 15 seconds after the kickoff. You can just see the small bit of body language telling them to push up the pitch. This is about as high a press as they've committed to in the entire match up to this point, and they're trying to get the defence to push up behind them to support that. But because it's not very structured or coordinated, and they were probably never planning on doing it at any point in the game anyway, England sort of play around that very easily. And cast your mind back a few minutes, the underlapping fullback runs trying to go untracked into the spaces left by stretching out Ireland's back line. Now there's only 4 of them. Now those spaces are bigger. They almost get Tino Livramento into that gap here. Ireland defend it, England get the corner, and from there they get the third goal. And I like that third goal because it's all 3 points working in harmony. If they won't give you space, go and make it. That's what Livramento does. Set pieces, that's how you can get at them. It's from a corner, and I guess the delivery's good. Let's say it is. Quality. And that's kind of all there is to it, really. Like, Ireland had a really clear, like, textbook low block game plan that for 55 minutes was really effective at stifling England and nearly gave them their own chance up the other end. But by applying the standard principles of how a quality team breaks down a team of, with respect, lesser quality trying to stifle them, England found a way through. That totally changed the game. And from there, they capitalised on how much better they're supposed to be. It's like, it really is a textbook example of good team versus not as good team, low block versus possession. But more interestingly, interestingly? Why does that sound wrong? Interestingly. That's a word. Interestingly. Of more interest to me was what it says about Harry Kane, because there's a lot of talk about his future as the line-leading centre-forward from England. A lot of people would rather see a more athletic, a more modern, a more aggressive centre-forward there. But in games like this, his ability to create space for others and his quality on the ball is not something England really have elsewhere right now. There are matches and game states, go watch the Greece video back, he was useful in that as well, where he's really important, where he is a world-class option for England. And I think you saw last night, despite the fact people will be like, oh, it's only Ireland, that he is really useful and is really important for stuff like this. Like, look at it again! What a ball that is! Who else is doing that? Nobody else is doing that for England. That gets him 10 more caps for me, minimum. But yeah, that's it. Really light one for a Monday morning. England are good. Thank you, Lee Carsley. Nice, sort of gentle edit for me. Everyone's happy. So if you did enjoy it, please subscribe to us here at FourFourTwo. I keep forgetting to tell everybody to subscribe, and when I don't, we get less subscribers than when I do. And I'd like more, because more is great. So hit that button, and every time we do one of these videos, I'm rambling now, you'll get it direct to your life. You can get me across all the social medias at Adam Clery, Clery, and I would especially encourage you to do that at the moment, either on Twitter or Blue Sky or Instagram, because I'm doing some fun stuff at the minute and you might enjoy that. So you'll see all of it over there. The 442 socials are in the corner of the video. Yeah, well done, England. 3 international breaks since the season started. Against me, a man who lives and dies by his ability to produce engaging, well-watched Premier League content. Thanks for that. Loved it. Great. Can't wait for the next one. Goodbye.